So with this image, and this one is Tellurion 04201. Did I get that right? Can be kind of tricky to keep it straight. 04201. Starting with the thumbnail. So again, at this point, this is what I'm thinking about is story, composition, making sure that even at this really low resolution, I have the elements roughly in a position that I'm happy with, and that I know it's almost like a grocery list of what is everything that I'm going to need to get this idea across. So
So,
you have a question?
yeah, so you're doing your like visual notes.
Yeah, very much so. With an eye towards composition and the final image, but it is also really just to make sure, do I have everything I'm going to need to move forward?
Mm.
Cameron 88. This is going to be like those how to draw things where there's a circle and then B is the completed high detail. Yeah, then draw the rest of the dog. Hopefully, it might. Oh, we'll see. I'll try to go through the next one then. Watching your stream is amazing. I discovered your work through Dragon Age, and you have been a huge inspiration. Oh, thank you. Thanks for sharing your process and experience with all of us. Well, thanks for jumping in and being here as we go along. So we're going to go thumbnail. The next step up is the pencil layer. And this is where it's taking the grocery list basically and trying to create a real image out of it. And so just to I'll flash back and forth between them because it kind of helps me to get an idea. But yeah, really, it's making some more solid and grounded decisions on what's the gesture, what is the actual composition going to be, if there are any issues that have shown up in the thumbnail. This is kind of a good spot to resolve some of those. So at this point, feeling pretty comfortable. Awesome. Okay, I can move forward into the inking layer, which is, again, just that extra level of refinement, just taking your time, trying to do make all the, what I would consider at this stage, final calls on how things are going to look, how things are going to actually work. And so this is next pass. Then it's laying down the color flats. So I put in all of the sort of default or diffuse color, the color that things really are. And then once that's all laid down, then I go into the light and shadow layer. With this image, I had in mind the idea that this was a very dark environment, that any light that was coming in was going to be kind of just ambient, like reflected light coming from outside. So part of working this out was trying to make sure that the figure's still red. But at this stage, I just really wanted to be true to what I thought, true to the lighting scenario that I wanted to do for this. SimK says, "Do you always have your flats all on one layer?" No, I actually keep them very. This is just for the sake of demonstration. I flattened all my working layers just for the sake of running through this demo pretty quickly because I actually separate the layers based on the elements. So each, like the foreground, midground, background, that kind of thing. Kind of thinking about it as depth. At this point, I would lay in the atmosphere. And so the purpose in this case, I wanted it to feel kind of hazy, but I also, it's a good opportunity to emphasize silhouettes a little bit more, make sure things are reading clearly. Because as you can see, when I turn the atmosphere layer on and off, things become that much clearer with the atmosphere. At this point, I still really wanted to get light and kind of push the silhouettes even stronger. And so at that point, I added the reflected glow, and it's like a pretty extreme bloom. We're kind of at Michael Bay levels of bloom going on here, but again, I'm thinking about it as a compositional tool for the most part. And then to finish it off, what I like to do is grading pass and then final color variations, just sort of adjusting my color. And so here, this is looking at, so the color grading. What I was doing was I wanted to brighten my shadows a little bit. The foreground character was looking a little dark. I wanted the lines to read on him a little bit more clearly, and so he's lightened up a little bit. The midtones, I sort of wanted to flatten a little. It was good to have some contrast, but it was almost too much contrast. And so there's also I wanted to overall warm up the light and kind of cool down the shadows just a little bit more. And then finally looking at that, it was feeling a little desaturated, so I just upped the saturation a hair, like maybe 5%, something like that. And at that point, I felt pretty cool with it. And this is the final image. So that is broad strokes and really high level the stages that I go through. If anyone has any questions, please shout them out. Um, but effectively, those are the stages that this image went through. Um, so